So there you are. You've been driving for hours through the night. You didn't have any chance to sleep, so your mind is hanging by a thread. You stop the car and go out to stretch your limbs. And then you look up into the sky and see a beautiful sunrise. Whoa, wait! There are 3 suns in the sky. You rub your eyes, but nope. There are still 3 bright stars in the sky. No, our home star hasn't been torn into 3 pieces, nor has it been visited by 2 other stars. This is called a sundog. It occurs mostly during severe frosts. Small ice crystals in the sky bend the light. As a result, you may see 3 bright spots in the sky instead of just 1. This phenomenon is officially called a halo. Usually it's just a circle around the sun. You can even see a halo at night, too. Just look at a street lamp and you'll see a bright circle around it. Sometimes a halo can take on a fancier shape. If there's a lot of ice in the air, the light is warped even more, just like in a room with a dozen mirrors. Then the halo can take on the shape of a human eye. Because of this phenomenon, a false dawn can occur also. While you're looking at the horizon, the dawn begins and the edge of the sun appears. A little bit more and wait! The sun starts to just dissolve in the sky. After a few moments, it's dark again. And only a minute later, the real sun shows its face. It was the same light curvature effect you saw before with the 3 suns. Only now, the light is curved vertically, not horizontally. And instead of the real sun, its reflection in ice crystals in the sky appeared. But the sun with 3 stars on the horizon is actually real. Not on Earth though, but 340 light-years away. There's a star system at the center of which lurks a star almost twice the size of our sun. And there are 2 small stars orbiting around this giant. From afar, they look like dumbbells. This strange world has a planet too. Sunsets and dawns there really happen with 3 stars. If you brought your significant other to a park bench to watch a sunset here, your date would go just fine. Whatever that means. Now you're at home, watching YouTube to the sound of a thunderstorm. Suddenly, you hear the sound of a window shattering and all the lights in the house go out. You see a streak of bright blue light from under the door to the next room. You open the door and see a sphere of lightning the size of a basketball. It's hanging still, occasionally zipping tiny lightning bolts to its sides. After a couple of moments, the ball flies away toward the window through which it got here. You've just witnessed a ball lightning. Clever name. Such a phenomenon has been observed in different parts of the world, and each time it scared people to bits. In 1753, an experienced sailor went up on the deck of a ship. He looked out and saw a big blue ball of fire over the water. The sailors wanted to turn around and catch up with this mystical orb, but it was moving too fast, and before they could change course, the ball flew upward at a tremendous speed. Then there was a powerful explosion, the force of 1,000 cannons. The boom toward the top of the ship's mast, and several sailors were thrown back by the shockwave. In the same instant, the orb disappeared, leaving behind only the unusual smell of sulfur. And one recent case occurred in Eastern Europe. During a thunderstorm, a ball of lightning flew into a woman's house. The woman remained motionless, and the blue ball flew right over her head. The lightning then discharged into the electrical wiring inside the wall and disappeared. But despite eyewitness claims, ball lightning still remains an unconfirmed phenomenon, and even if it exists in reality, we can't explain how it appears. Some scientists have even been able to create ball lightning in the lab, but those spheres weren't stable and they weren't anything like what the witnesses described. Moving on. This cloud looks like a dinosaur, and this one looks like a cat, and this one, it looks like these clouds are falling down. That's just a mammatus cloud. Their shape really makes them look like chunks of clouds about to slam on the ground. Well, that's not going to happen, but you better start seeking cover anyway. Such clouds are a sign of a severe thunderstorm coming. It takes a lot of moist air with ice crystals at the top and dry air at the bottom to create such clouds. Then vertical currents of air appear between these layers, and these currents make the clouds take the shape of a human brain. And this giant cloud looks like a dome that's going to cover an entire city. In fact, that's exactly what happens. A huge cloud covers a large area and then rains heavily on it. Sometimes the front of such a cloud takes a bizarre shape, like in these pictures. It looks more like several giant spaghetti clouds, or even giant cloud worms. This phenomenon can often be seen in Australia, and it's called a morning glory. It happens because a strong wind twists parts of the cloud on both sides, and then the huge sheet of air dough splits into thick strips. And sometimes you can see clouds in the sky made of birds. Wow, that cloud moves quickly and changes shape. It becomes more transparent and then denser and darker again. The birds seem to be involved in some kind of dance or performance. But they're not doing it for beauty or for the crowds of spectators gathered below. They're doing it for protection. When birds group themselves into such a cloud, they intimidate birds of prey. An eagle or hawk would have a hard time picking out a single target among the endless numbers of birds. And they move quickly, covering each other. Fish are huddled together in schools in the same way. Such a cloud might just spook a hungry predator. For another unusual phenomenon, we'll have to look at the Earth from a bird's eye view, at night. We head to the Middle East. There's a large desert there and it's completely dark, except for one spot. It's a big circle that glows with a bright orange light, the Darvasa crater. And it's just a giant gas burner. Years ago, geologists found gas there, and they started mining for it. But when they excavated, they came across a void underground. The void collapsed and it formed a crater. It's as wide as half a soccer field and as deep as a 5-story building. Gas began to come out of the cracks in the crater, and since animals were often grazing near this place, the gas could harm them. Then the geologists decided to set these gas streams on fire to exhaust the source. One spark, and the crater was filled with columns of fire 30 feet high. Geologists thought the fire would be over in a day or two. But if you come here now, you'll see this gateway to the underworld is still burning, and it's been going on for almost 50 years. In 2013, a man descended to the bottom of the burning crater for the first time. He collected many different samples there, and scientists were able to find bacteria that aren't found anywhere else on Earth. They're quite comfortable at the bottom of this endless burning fry pan. Another mystical phenomenon can be seen in the desert: a sand waterfall. When the wind brings a lot of sand to the edge of the canyon, it begins to fall down. Now amplify this effect 100 times, and you get a sand waterfall in Saudi Arabia. It really is like Niagara Falls, only there's not a drop of water. The locals say this phenomenon warns of an impending sandstorm. And the last phenomenon can only be seen in winter. You see a frozen river, and there's some strange stones sticking out of the ice. But when you get closer, you can get scared, because it's not a stone, but a crocodile snout. Don't fret though, it can't jump out from under the ice and take a bite out of you, and the animal isn't in trouble as you might think. Crocodiles can't breathe underwater, and they need to constantly rise to the surface to take a breath. But when the water freezes, that becomes impossible. So, crocodiles stick their noses out before severe frosts and leave half their body on the surface. They can breathe safely. Plus, the ice and cold air cools the crocodiles and slows down their metabolism. So, that's how crocs can survive the cold and hungry times. And so, this true story about crocs is not a croc. Two bright beams of sunlight are traveling across your forehead, cheeks, eyes. Ooh! You scrunch up your face and sneeze loudly. It would be nothing unusual if the sun's rays weren't coming from two different stars. Yup, you're still on Earth, but this Earth has two suns. What would your life look like in such a world? It'd depend on the stars' mass and their positions relative to Earth and each other. If the stars were small, their gravity wouldn't be enough to keep our planet in its orbit. It'd eventually drift away into space. But if one of the stars was larger than the other, it would have a much stronger gravitational pull, and sooner or later, Earth would end up too close to it. It'd become too hot to live on the planet. You know, boiling oceans, evaporating rivers and glaciers, and scorching hot air. Lovely. In the end, our once blue world would crash into the star and, disappear. The only chance for Earth to have a stable orbit would be to move around only one of the two suns. But it wouldn't be that great for all kinds of life forms on the planet. Every once in a while, the two stars would face both sides of Earth. It would mean there would be no nights. Our planet would get twice as much heat as usual. It'd also be bombarded with double doses of radiation. And of course, solar winds would become twice stronger. During such periods, you'd have to hide indoors and probably order drone delivery. Because you set your foot outside, the two suns would get you toasted in no time, what with all that heat and solar radiation. Uh-oh, it doesn't sound optimistic. Maybe it would be better if our planet was moving around both stars. Perhaps. Its orbit would be rather unstable in this case, and still, it would be better than experiencing crazy heat waves every now and then. But in this situation, the stars would have to be close to each other, and Earth would most likely travel too far away to get enough heat to keep its water liquid. If our planet had been developing in such conditions from the very beginning, now it would be just a frozen rock with no life on it. How about the most optimistic scenario? Our planet would get itself two similar-sized stars, and each of them would be more than half as powerful and bright as our current sun. By the way, it sounds rather realistic. Such equal-mass double stars do exist. Their common gravitational pull would be just enough for Earth to not fly out into space, and the amount of energy our planet would get would be more or less the same as it receives now. But the combined mass of the stars would be about 1.5 times the mass of our current sun. It would mean their gravity would also be stronger, and 1 year on the planet would be shorter. It'd last not 365, but around 280 days. But Earth would only feel comfortable if it was at least 4 times farther from its stars than they were from each other. Then our planet would happily move around their common center of mass. In other words, the suns would have to be less than 10 million miles apart. Then the rest of the planets in the solar system, including Mercury, would have stable orbits. If you lived on the Earth that was moving around two stars, you'd be able to watch awesome solar eclipses. But it would not be the moon blocking the sun, but one of the stars preventing you from seeing the other. Instead of several minutes, eclipses would last for hours on end. They would also occur much more often, maybe once in a week or so. If the stars were a bit larger in size, there would be 2 types of eclipses. Every now and then, a smaller star would block the larger one, but only partially. But when the bigger star blocked the smaller, it would result in a total solar eclipse, complete darkness. 2 suns would mean days would become brighter. Nights, sunrises, sunsets, these would change too. The star would set and rise at different times. So, arriving too late to watch the sunset? It wouldn't be a problem. You'd still be in time for the second one. With 2 suns, the seasons on Earth might also start to change more rapidly. They would be harsher than now. Most life forms on the planet would be struggling to keep up with intense and fast climate changes. But returning to the combined gravity that would be stronger than what we have now. Because of this, everything on the planet's surface would look different. Trees would be thick and short, plants stiff and tough. Animals would be way bigger and sturdier. Their legs would be more massive to support their weight. It would increase due to the stronger gravity. People would most likely be bulky and short. Their bones would be thicker, either to withstand higher gravity or because of constant breaking and healing. Humans would also have stronger muscles, lungs, and hearts. Well, at least the gravity wouldn't double at once. If it happened, our planet's core would probably collapse on itself right away. Then it would release so much heat it would burn everything on the surface, like us. Even if the gravity was increasing gradually, adapting to this new world would still be a challenge. Buildings and bridges would collapse under their new weight. Planes wouldn't be able to fly. In any case, discussing what Earth would look like with 2 suns is nothing but a guessing game at the moment. But scientists know for sure that such planets do exist. Kepler 16b was discovered by the Kepler Space Telescope. The planet, the only one astronomers know about so far, orbits 2 stars. It has beautiful double sunsets and is around 200 light-years away from Earth. But this planet isn't a welcoming one. It's the size of Saturn and extremely cold. Kepler-16b is mostly made of gas. It might have a rocky core, but astronomers aren't so sure about that. The planet is also out of its star's habitable zone. That's the area where there might be liquid water. Plus, the stars are colder than our Sun and much smaller. One of them is less than 70% of our Sun's mass, and the other just 20%. That's why scientists are almost sure no life could survive in such a place. It's highly unlikely Earth could be developing in the same way, even if it was orbiting two stars. After all, our planet isn't a gas giant like Kepler-16b. But if this had somehow happened, Earth's fate would be very different now. The temperatures on the planet's surface would be lower than minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit. All water would be frozen, and the chances are Earth would never have turned into the blooming green paradise we live in. At the same time, our Sun might have had a companion long ago. It could be Nemesis, a theoretical dwarf star. If it had been a white dwarf, just a teaspoon of its matter would have weighed more than 5 tons. It's almost as heavy as an elephant. White dwarfs are extremely dense. They can be the size of our planet, but as massive as our Sun. Such a dwarf star could be responsible for several mass extinctions on Earth. Scientists think it could somehow affect objects in the outer solar system. It's the region which is home to giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, and their moons. Anyway, Nemesis could push different space bodies off their course. Then it probably hurtled them toward Earth, where they collided with our planet and caused terrible disasters. It's just a theory, though. Many scientists don't support it, and astronomers haven't found any evidence yet. But a 2017 study suggested such a star could exist in the ancient past. Even better, the researchers claimed each star, like our Sun, was once born with a companion. But even if Nemesis had existed all those billions of years ago, it would have broken free of the Sun's gravity quite early in its history, and then it would have wandered off into the Milky Way. Ah, beautiful! You're walking with your friend and look up at the sky. The sun looks a bit different today, like it has some kind of ring around it, a rainbow type thing. Huh? Hey, look at that! Your friend pulls his head up out of his phone. You shouldn't look directly into the… Stop everything, he says. It's a sun halo. We need to find shelter now, unless you have the world's biggest umbrella on you. A sun's halo is nature's sign that there's a snow or rainstorm on its way. It's caused by clouds that are made of bazillions of small ice crystals flying around 20,000 feet. Sunlight goes through those crystals, which causes the light to split and refract, like when there's a rainbow. Now, don't look at the sun halo directly. It's going to be tempting because it's not something you see every day. Plus, it's really beautiful. But ultraviolet light can burn the exposed tissue of your retina and cause serious damage. So, not worth it. Grab some sunglasses and you're good to go. This phenomenon lasts about 40 minutes. These clouds are the same ones that can cause a spooky ring around the moon at night sometimes. Nature sends early signs of disasters in many ways. J-shaped trees means there's a landslide coming. Since the ground is moving slowly, the trees grow into the super selfiable shape. Try to find a flat area and avoid going near any trees, unless you have superhuman strength. You're on a nice walk on the beach. Sand, sun, not a cloud in the sky. Then, out of nowhere, you see the ocean going back away from the shore. Suddenly, you can even see bits of coral, small fish, and other random small sea animals. That's a good sign to leave. There might be a tsunami on the way. A tsunami is formed when there's an earthquake underwater, and it can hit the coast at 500 miles per hour. It's mostly a Pacific Ocean thing, but why risk it? If there's a channel of choppy water on the beach, stay away. There might be a rip current under the surface that can be extremely dangerous. Sometimes waves hit the shore in a weird way, which forms these rip currents. You might see a strange gap in the waves, or you might notice random bits of seaweed going in all different directions. If you don't ever find yourself caught in a rip current, try to stay afloat and don't waste your energy swimming against the current. Yell out for help and try to float your way along the beach. Once you break out of the channel, swim diagonally to the shore. If you find yourself in the ocean and see a group of sharks swimming, okay, this scenario doesn't sound good either way. Well, the good news is they're not necessarily coming for you. The bad news? The sharks might be trying to escape from a huge tropical storm or even a hurricane. Sharks can sense these things, so when nature gets angry, they group together and swim deep under the surface to get to safety. You probably shouldn't follow them. Good luck! The golden rule since ancient times: follow the animals. Insects, rats, and snakes leave their homes a couple of days before really big earthquakes. Scientists can't track or really explain how they know it's coming. It seems animals really can sense earthquakes, maybe because they feel those smaller initial shock waves that we don't even notice. What if you see animals running towards you? Well, that could mean you're about to get eaten for breakfast. Or it means there's a wildfire behind them. Amphibians like frogs, toads, and salamanders try to protect themselves by burrowing down into the ground. Others just run. Before you start running alongside them, check to see if you can see smoke. You don't want to sprint flat out for nothing. Well, it's not just animals. We can spot warning signs too. For example, if you notice your hair suddenly starts to stand on end and your jewelry starts to buzz, take shelter right away. Lightning might be about to strike somewhere nearby. If you're outside and can't run into a house, make sure not to stand near any tall structures. Lie flat on the ground. Be near water. Seek shelter under an isolated tree or stand in an open space. And don't stand on top of the Empire State Building. That thing gets zapped hundreds of times a year. Do you like skiing? It's all fun and games until all you can see is white. Avalanches can move up to 80 miles an hour, so watch for some warning signs. Does it feel hollow when you walk in the snow? Are there cracks around your feet? Can you see a huge avalanche coming? Time to go! Sometimes a storm mixes its blue light with the red light from the sun, and you get a pretty impressive green. Enjoy it from a safe distance, preferably indoors. This super tall thundercloud usually means you're about to get smashed by hail, or worse, a tornado. Find cover somewhere, like in an underground parking lot or a basement. It might be a bit embarrassing if you're wrong, though. Okay, we know volcanoes can be dangerous, but the lakes near them? Is anything not a sign of danger? Lakes that are near something boiling hot that never cools, so volcanoes, are like wildly shaken soda cans, just about to burst. The magma that's underground actually pushes carbon dioxide into the bottom of the lake, and that gas stays there, waiting. Then, even something boring like rain can disturb the lake a little too much and bam! Or boom! You get the picture. Diving, swimming, snorkeling, the sea can be amazing, but it's pretty unpredictable. When two wave currents run into each other, they can create a cross sea. It looks pretty cool from far away, but it can be really dangerous for swimmers, surfers, or even ships. There's a strong current roaming around under the surface. You're walking on the beach, apparently every good story starts like this, and all of a sudden, ooh, a cave. How cool is this? You should probably go in there, explore a bit, and no. If there's a full moon out, you might not be able to get out of that cave. A full moon affects the tide and makes it lower than usual. That cave might be more accessible, but instead of an exciting adventure, you could end up trapped in there until the next full moon. Bring a big lunch. A wall cloud is one of those things you're both excited and scared to see. Scared because you don't know what it is. Excited because, well, how often do you see something like that? Whatever you feel, tell your legs to start running. During a thunderstorm, these wall clouds sit lower than anything else and can be up to 5 miles long. And if they start spinning, well, Dorothy ended up in Oz. Who knows where you'll end up? It's 2009 in Italy. A man was hanging out in his kitchen. Then he saw some flickering lights. He knew just what to do. He moved his family to a safe place. A couple of seconds later, a massive earthquake hit the whole region. His family survived thanks to his quick reaction. He knew these flickering lights were actually a sign of an upcoming earthquake. People have been seeing these mysterious lights for ages. Some thought it was some kind of sign coming from space. Scientists never used to take them seriously, but after the invention of photography, more and more evidence of these strange lights appeared. Soon, they realized the connection. The lights appear, and pretty soon, the earthquake hits. After a bit of digging around, they actually found some records of these earthquake lights from hundreds of years ago. There were bluish flames coming out of the ground right before an earthquake. Ooh, creepy. Oh, ocean, come on, not you again. Okay, but just one more. If you see the oceans turned all reddish-brown, don't go in the water or anywhere near it. This red tide is caused by toxic algae and is something you can find all over the world. That toxic algae can be there even if the ocean's a normal color. Getting that stuff all over you can cause some health issues. Rinse yourself off in fresh water as fast as you can. You know, they even wrote a holiday song about it. Algae Home for Christmas. No, really.